Last night's my horror night.
Welcome to the last video store. I'm your host, Bud Haddonfield, and we're still counting down the days of Halloween. I'm very excited for today's episode. Since I was a kid, I was very obsessed with the Universal Monster movies, Frankenstein's Monster being one of my favorites, and I think it's the perfect time to pretty much just go over a list of all the movies that either Frankenstein's Monster, something based off of Frankenstein, or something just too similar to Mary Shelley's book. Like I said, it all started off with the book. Mary Shelley, I don't know which year it was written. It's old as shit. But it first came to life in the documented way because there was a lot of movies that just got lost over time, and there's stories of movies that were made before the golden age, or however you want to be it. But I'm just going to start off with the original that I know of, and that's 1931's Frankenstein. Starred Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster. We almost had Bela Lugosi as the monster. He was offered the role, but he turned it down, being that he didn't want to get too typecast. That's something I had read, but could you imagine if for some reason Bela took over the role, or he had the role, and the look of Frankenstein would be completely different, because the look from the original movie pretty much paved a way through all the other movies to come, and all the other characters, a cartoon, wherever it may be. Pretty much the image of Frankenstein's monster that you think of is Boris Karloff's look, and it's technically nothing to do with it, because the book kind of had the monster completely different. But just very iconic. So like I said, I just want to go over all the different movies that had Frankenstein's monster, or something that's just very close to Mary Shelley's story. And the best way to start it off with is the original Frankenstein, like I already said. So you had the original 1931, the sequel, Bride of Frankenstein, which everybody always constitutes as a love story. It's really not. It's kind of a tragic, unloved story, but that's not what we're here for. A couple of years after that, we got Son of Frankenstein, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, Frankenstein's Monsters. They had a bunch of different actors that played the monster in these movies. Like I said, we did have Boris Karloff as the original rendition. Bela Lugosi did take it over in one of the later sequels, and we had Lon Chaney Jr. also as Frankenstein's monster. For the longest time, you can only get them on these packs. You had the Blu-ray and the DVD, and I like having all these movies individual. So I was able to go back and find all the Universal Monster movies on VHS in pretty decent condition, so I was happy to do so. But from the Universal Monster movies, we go to Hammer Horror. And Hammer Horror, they were pretty much remakes, but they were all based in England. And we had Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who pretty much starred in all these movies. The director, Terrence Fisher, he did a lot of the Hammer Horror movies. He did the old Sherlock Holmes movies as well. So we get Curse of Frankenstein, which Christopher Lee plays the role as the monster. We get Revenge of Frankenstein, Evil of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Created Woman, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed. And then from here, the last two movies of the series, we have Hordes of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. And the actor who played Darth Vader took on the role as the monster. I can't think of his name offhand. It comes and goes for some damn reason. Let's see if I can find it on here. David Prowse, of course, obviously. So, Larry Fessenden, I can't ever get his name correctly. He did Depraved, which is pretty much his version of Frankenstein. We have Paul Morrissey's Frankenstein, which was like Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, or Flesh for Frankenstein. These weren't bad movies. They were odd, but they were pretty good. They also did a Dracula rendition as well. And these movies are in no particular order, so except for the original classics, so I just stuck them together. We have I, Frankenstein, which I really didn't care for. Frankenstein 80. Blackenstein. I love this movie. Army of Frankenstein, Monster Brawl, which features Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's Daughter. We get some Paul Naschy movies. Dracula, Prisoner of Frankenstein, Dracula versus Frankenstein. Let's see. We have Assignment of Terror, Frankenstein's Bloody Terror, Frankenstein's Army, which the idea is there, so that's why I just stuck it in here. We have The Bride with Sting, not the wrestler, the singer. I hope it's the Puff Daddy version of the song and not that Sting piece of shit. God damn it. Who doesn't remember the Tourette's guy? But this was a pretty good movie. We got Frankenstein 1970 with Boris Karloff. Frankenstein, The True Story, which this one wasn't too bad. Young Frankenstein, which everybody knows Young Frankenstein. Little mini-series, the same name, Frankenstein. And one of the most recent, Lisa Frankenstein, which is, again, similar story, so close enough. That's why we put it on this list. One of the best or most introductory ways that I've got into the Frankensteins was, of course, the Monster Squad. Everybody loves the Monster Squad. So continuing, we have Reanimator, Bride of Reanimator, and Beyond Reanimator. And yes, it's pretty much a doctor trying to create life by piecing together body parts. And of course we have Bride of Reanimator, so of course that takes from Frankenstein. We have Frankenstein's Unbound with Roger Corman, and it has the late Raul Julia. Another made-for-TV movie, if I'm thinking correctly. And this one has Frankie Tony Todd in it, so it's always a good time. Frankie and His Pals. Dan Curtis's Frankenstein, and this is finally hitting Blu-ray. We have Bo Servenson from the Walking Tall movies. He played Frankenstein's monster. We finally getting a Blu-ray collection of this. We have Frankenstein meets Space Monster, which this was kind of a weird movie, but it wasn't bad. Victor Frankenstein, which I thought was very underrated. Rock and Roll Frankenstein. I Was a Teenage Frankenstein. Terror of Frankenstein. And this is just a little collection that has Jesse James Meet Frankenstein's Daughter and Lady Frankenstein. So, yes, there's a lot of Frankenstein movies. We have Frankenstein's Castle of Freaks, Frankenstein Reborn, Frankenstein's Daughter, which I just showed off the Blu-ray. We have Frankenstein Island, The Frankenstein Theory, which was actually a pretty cool found footage movie. Frankenstein versus the Mummy, a bootleg of 1997's House of Frankenstein. We need to get an actual legit release of this because this was a pretty cool little miniseries. And another, I think this was a made-for-TV movie with Frankenstein. So this one right here is from the 1990s. I remember this premiered on Monster Vision with Joe Bob Briggs. And we got Randy Quaid, who played Frankenstein's monster. We get Frankenstein 90. And just give me 1 second and I'll be right back. So these two Japanese bootlegs. We get War of the Gargantuans, which is Frankenstein's monster. It was supposed to be King Kong versus Frankenstein or whatever the hell it is. These ain't bad. These are pretty cool. And then there's a sequel, Frankenstein versus Baragon. I could be mixing these up. They don't have the actual... Okay, yeah, this was the sequel. War of the Gargantuans was the original. So... in the last two that I'm going to talk about is Frank and Weenie, which was actually a pretty cool little movie by Tim Burton. It was originally a live-action movie from a short film from the 1980s, and they made a full-length cartoon out of it. It was a cute little kids movie. And then Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. I'm not going to talk about the monsters just because I don't feel like just going to look for all of them. And definitely Hotel Transylvania, all the other cartoons. There's a lot of whole Frankenstein Frankenstein's monster in these movies. I feel like I'm just rambling, but I'm just so excited to talk about all these. These are a lot of movies, and I think the Universal Monster movies are perfect for Halloween. Definitely anything that follows in its path. So yes, I'm gonna stop my rant because I'm talking like a madman, like the Ultimate Warrior from back in the day, just talking all kind of dumb shit. So I'm gonna stop it right there. Thanks for tuning into the last video store. This was the many faces of Frankenstein and his monster. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode. Sorry, forgot one. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from the 90s. Robert De Niro is Frankenstein's monster.
Michael Myers are the heroes on my past. Now the median is dying. Chucky and the zombies all up in cemetery. So bring me back those. I wanna come back to those times when all movies were so scary. I brought